All right, it is 6:30. I am going to call this meeting to order. It is, what is today, September 1st? Welcome, everybody. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Michael, please record.
Very good.
I don't know, press the play button up there. Next to it, other side. There you go.
Does it do anything?
I'm not sure.
I can't see it. That's the wrong.
I don't see the record thing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Looks like it's
All right, there we go. Additions to the agenda. I have a request to use the town forest by Steve Hardy. I received an email about that. And then we have the request from the planning commission. Do we want to do that under their committee report, or should that be a new item?
Committee report.
Okay, so that would be the only addition would be for Steve Hardy, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. All right. Chair's remarks. We have the compost bins that have been gone, so we were going to just read the release that we put out for anybody that was not on Facebook or that does not get the email. So bear with me here. On Tuesday, August 18th, 2020, the Vernon Selectboard met in a regular session at 6:30. Members of the Solid Waste Committee were in attendance to provide recommendations concerning the food scrap cow dumpsters located at the Vernon Town Highway Department. Upon review of the information provided by the Solid Waste Committee, Town Treasurer Cindy Turnley, Town Administrator Maggie Tuck-Sauer, and Town Legal Counsel in the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation, the Select Board made a motion to remove the cow food scrap dumpsters until a legal solution could be found. The motion carried 4-0, sorry. The Select Board was unwilling to continue a program that was no longer within the limits of current or future state regulations, while also no longer in the budget approved by the taxpayers. The difficult decision to discontinue the cow dumpster program was made after months of researching the legality of the dumpsters. The state of Vermont is in the process of creating a program that would allow general public use permits under certain circumstances for locked tote type bins for food scrap use after meeting very specific health, safety, and environmental criteria. Upon meeting these criteria, those enrolled in this program would be required to apply for a permit. This program is months away from starting. I think it's worth noting that the current setup that we had there would not have fit the upcoming permit requirements, so that setup would not have worked. In addition, the cow dumpster rate was increased from $115.75 per dumpster to $280 per dumpster per month by the hauling provider. This was far beyond the budget that taxpayers voted for in the 2020 town meeting. The Select Board is dedicated to finding the most cost-effective and permanent solution for waste disposal. In the meantime, there are food scrap composting options within the community, and a lot of those are available on Vermont's which
Department of Agriculture website. If you go to the website that we posted when we first made this announcement, the Department of Agriculture has pages and pages of links for free solutions and very cost-effective solutions that people can use.
Okay, so that is the Vermont Department of Ag. You can check out their website. We have certainly noticed over the last couple of weeks with this that this is a concern to residents and certainly an issue that people are not happy about because of the importance of that to the community. at this point, the select board will take over trying to provide a speedy solution that is both legal and cost effective to the residents, so that we can hopefully find something that is viable so that we can move beyond this. That is all I have for that. We have open public comments on agenda items only. Anybody? Okay. Guests, we have, who do we have? Mary Lynn, we have Merton, and we have Catherine? Yes, okay. And I do not see Mr. Christiansen. And we will go over to Mr. Emery for a COVID-19 situational update, sir.
Thank you. It's good to see your faces, or what we can see of them anyway.
Eyes.
And maybe sometimes it's better. So to bring you up to date of today's statistics, there's 1,635 as of today in the state. 6 of them are new. 2 hospitalized, 11 people are hospital under investigation, and Vermont remains at the unfortunate but 58 deaths. Vermont still is high on the doing good list. We're still very, very good compared to other states. Part of what's being credited, according to Dr. Levine, is the contact tracing. Dr. Levine says 92% of cases are interviewed within the first 24 hours of being notified. So that's being credited with helping keeping it low and in notifying people and getting it. So one thing people shouldn't be concerned about is if you've been in contact with somebody that's tested positive, it's okay to say, yes, I've been in contact with them. Because if that happens, the quicker they can isolate that. Wyndham County has seen a growth, however, not a ton. We've changed a little bit of the color from light blue to dark blue, and it really doesn't mean a ton of things to us. What it does mean is that there's been an increase over that number. There's no reason for us to consider changing anything that we do. We are still under and will remain until you all decide that under the state of emergency, which will give us the authority to change things quickly if we need to. However, at this point, I would recommend that we stay with the state of emergency and we just stay where we are. The contacts that we have throughout the town, Vernon Green is still doing very well, status quo. The schools, as you know, are planned to reopen under a hybrid situation. And they have a very comprehensive policy. So as we've seen already in the news from colleges, some of that has changed dramatically in the 2 weeks they've been there. Schools, we'll see. They're prepared, they're monitored. We'll see where that all goes. I'm optimistic that Vernon is going to remain in great shape. Mary Ross has got a great plan, and the custodians have done a super job there. I mentioned Vernon Green. So the message is still, from day one, wash your hands, social distancing, wear a mask, and practice that. And that's the same message that we've been saying since March. So if we continue to do that, the good news is the message hasn't changed, so that means that's still working. Masks are available if people need the mask. The state has provided the town with some masks, so if you need some, contact either myself or Tim at the town clerk's office. He has some. Other than that, I'm open for questions. Mark couldn't be here tonight, so he and I conversed earlier, and he doesn't have anything else to add other than what I said. So,
Michael?
questions?
No questions, thank you.
Jeff?
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I've heard about some places where if you do not have symptoms, they will not test you. Is that true in the state?
Well, that's an excellent question. The answer to that is go to your primary physician. If you need to be tested, however, if you feel you need to be tested, you need to go to your primary physician. There are people and there are cases I've heard that if you don't have symptoms, they're not going to test you for so many days to see if you actually come up with the symptoms. However, your primary physician will lead you to what you should do. The state is not shy of testing. If you've been in contact, and when they're contacting you, they will lead you to do that. But I have heard the same thing, that if in fact you aren't symptomatic, then they may not or may do tests. But
I mean, that's a little concerning that, if you felt that you've been in contact, or you have been in contact with somebody that tested positive and you want to test and to be turned away, I mean, it was months ago where, we heard that if you want to get tested, you can get tested.
Yeah.
And that's still not true.
It's not as true as it was. I think because they've got a better handle on it, so they're being a little bit choosier. They're still doing pop-up testings in hot areas or where something has sprung up where, for instance, Rutland, you've probably seen that Rutland had a significant load all of a sudden. So that was attributed to one group, one party. But there has been pop-up testing there where people could go. But I agree that if you think that you should be tested, you should be able to go to your PA or your physician and be tested. But
Yeah.
I will share that with the state, the concern.
Yeah. So, second question was because, we are a bedroom community, not just for Brattleboro, but Greenfield and Keene. And you mentioned we went from one shade of color to a darker one. Do people that travel out of state, say to Keene or Greenfield, need to be concerned that we're going to be turned away or ostracized by New Hampshire and Massachusetts?
Because of our
change in.
Well, I haven't heard of that. I do know that different parts of the state and states are different colors. And I haven't heard of people that have been turned away or had suffered any consequences of living in our community.
Yeah.
However, I'm not so sure that it won't happen. And it's probably going to be the other way around with people coming into the state of Vermont. However, we've all seen the increase in the state of Vermont. However, our travel population will increase from now because it's going to be ski season.
Foliage season
That's right.
first.
Yep.
Ski.
So I suspect that we will see an increase as that happens. There is not a vaccine that's out yet. If you watch the news, there's suggestions that it'll be out in November, and then there's suggestions the first of the year. And there's suggestions
It'll be
that
out November 2nd. Right?
That's right. It might be only, if it's 50% effective, is a high rate. So, so I'll share with your concern with the state, and I'm not sure how to answer your other question. I'm not aware of that happening.
No, I didn't expect to. I just wanted to bring it up that if we eventually do need to be concerned, again, we're in the corner of the state, and so many of us travel to New Hampshire and Massachusetts on a regular basis.
Yep, and and Brattleboro has, Windham County is the third highest in the state. We are at 122, or 120, and the one higher than us is 122, and then Chittenden County with over 700.
So is that on a per capita basis?
That's actual.
Just actual cases.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Steve.
Gene?
No, said thanks.
Sandy?
Okay.
We saw Cheshire County had an increase as well, which put them into a different category. Is that any cause of concern for us?
The state is saying no.
Okay.
The state is basically doing the same thing that is not a concern. However, saying to the public, be cognizant of where you're going. Be aware that if you go into states, and you should look at their maps and what they're at, and to see if you really want to go there, or if you're staying overnight, that becomes a whole different ballgame. If you go to Maine, for instance, and stay overnight, you're gonna find that you're gonna be asked to quarantine, depending on where you go. And that's the same as it's been for quite some time. Cheshire County, again, has grown, but not to the point where anybody from the state of Vermont has indicated. I mean, I don't have any of that information.
Okay.
They haven't shared if it was.
And
I
then,
will say that the state is also reducing the number of meetings. We used to meet every Tuesday, virtual meetings. They're now going to change that to once a month versus once a week. So I guess
Wow.
everyone's feeling either good or meeting doubt. But I think everyone's feeling better that the state's holding its own. So that's gonna be a reduction. The daily information will still come that we get daily, but the group meetings will slow down.
air system at the school, is
Yeah.
that, just curious, I know that was a big thing in our district, so.
Yeah, the air exchange system and the air quality at Vernon School has been taken care of. Dennis Atwater is on top of that, and they've made changes that they need to do to change over the air indoor filter at wherever it needs to be. A lot of the schools have elected to go outside. If you go to BOHS tomorrow, look out on the baseball field, you're gonna see large tents that are out there that popped up today. So a lot of their stuff will be outside. However, remember, if you don't have children in the school, you might want to go try to read that, because it's pretty complicated. Your kids are only going to be in school 2 days a week and studying at home virtually 3 days a week. So depending on how you spell your last name and where it starts is the days that you will be there, Mondays or Tuesdays or Thursdays and Fridays. So if you have kids in school, you've probably already been educated on how to do that. If you don't, it's a great read. You'll enjoy reading it.
Any questions from Zoom or the audience? Seeing none, Chief, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Martin, floor is yours, sir.
Yes, hello. So this agenda item has to do with the resubmitting or submitting really of a new application to the EDA. You are familiar with the previous application. We received a denial, which I believe you've all seen, but within that denial was an invitation to reapply with a slightly changed scope of work, really. And the main thing seemed to be that the EDA would like this to focus just on the 125 acres of the VY site and to omit the 11 acres of the Vernon Village area, which had been included in the previous application. Incidentally, included at the suggestion of our EDA representative. But our EDA representative is not on the committee that assesses these things, and came back from those people saying, you know, that should be eliminated because it's largely, you know, that is a residential area. It might have some commercial in it, but it's basically residential, and the EDA's mission in life is to do economic development, create jobs, work on commercial, industrial areas, and that sort of thing. So it was actually, I think, a good sign that in denying the letter, they invited us to reapply. I don't think that they would be sending that invitation if that was just going to be, you know, if they didn't think that that would be an acceptable application once it was done. So you've also seen the new draft application, the major parts of it. And so what we need tonight is an approval from you all to resubmit this application, and specifically to approve the funding of the town's match. I should have mentioned that also, since we are reducing the scope in terms of the acreage by a little less than 10%, we're also reducing the amount of the grant that we're asking for, so that we don't get them coming back, this time around and saying, hey, you reduced the scope of work, so you shouldn't have, you should also have reduced the amount that you're asking for. We're doing that. We've reduced it from 200,000 to 180, with 90 coming from the EDA and 90 coming from the town. So that is the motion, which I believe you have in front of you, to approve that funding.
Discussion? Questions, anybody? No? So Martin, what about, this went to him as well? No, okay. So today we were informed of another grant possibility, specific for communities like us that are either post-nuclear or, I believe, coal. There is no deadline on this application. There is also no match requirement from the community members either. It would be my suggestion and my opinion that the Solid Waste Committee, the Planning Commission should schedule another meeting and look at this potential grant possibility and see what their recommendation on it at that point would be.
Uh,
I have a comment.
Please.
So this is the paperwork that you gave us
I
today.
can't hear that, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at the paperwork that I was given today about this grant, and I have a question, because it gives a funding opportunity number. Is that something specific to grants? Because that number is the same as what the Planning Commission has done? And it's, and
Is
the
it,
whole.
are you talking about the EDA's funding opportunity title, FY 2020, Public Works and Economic Adjustment Assistance, Notice of Funding Opportunity, FY 20 PWEA NOFO?
No, well, this one that I have in my packet says PWEAA 2020.
Yeah, well, that is the funding opportunity under which this grant that we're applying for has been issued by the EDA. And that includes, as you said, both the NCC, which is the nuclear closure communities,
Yeah.
and a similar program that's been around for a few years for coal communities that are transitioning to something else. But both of these, I can absolutely assure you that both of these things, and specifically the nuclear closure communities, requires a one-to-one match. So I don't know what you're looking at, but if it's the PWEAA, that definitely requires a match.
Yeah, that's what this says, and on page 2, cost sharing or match requirement says yes.
Okay.
on,
For the CARES Act, the update on CARES Act funding availability was the update that we got today. So the CARES Act is the caveat.
I can't hear that, I'm sorry.
So the information that I'm speaking about is the update that came in today, Martin. And it's the addition to the PWEAA 2020 that is adding the CARES Act to this information. So it's allowing people that fall into the nuclear decommissioning communities to also add COVID as a concern to communities, and that does not involve a deadline, and those individuals needing recovery assistance would not require a match.
Individuals?
Communities.
Yeah, but are we a community that requires recovery from COVID? Is that what you're suggesting we base our case on?
Well, I'm suggesting that that's a possibility, that we have been impacted by COVID, and that some of the economic development has definitely been rendered. I would hope that that would be a reason why some of the planning has been delayed in 2020.
Is there a reason this was not forwarded to me, or could it be forwarded to me now? And you guys, and I can take a look at it, and you guys can go on to some other agenda item for a moment? I feel that I've been blindsided by this.
Well, we did we found out today, Martin, so I apologize that you feel that way, but it's not intentional, so I want to make that clear.
You know, I spoke with the EDA yesterday, nobody mentioned that to me.
Do you have that right there, Maggie?
I'm looking to see if I can find the one I sent to you and just send it to him.
Let me tell you what my concern is, is that this funding is limited. And so, I was really hoping to resubmit this application tomorrow. However, I understand that if there's some way that we can apply without a match, that might make some sense, but, if that application has to be based on Vernon having to demonstrate some major impact due to COVID-19, I don't see that happening. With the handful of cases that we've had in this town, the impact has been, pretty minimal compared to the impact of closing a nuclear plant with a $650 million payroll. I'm sorry, a $60 million payroll.
can I ask you if you can explain some of this under there, says additional information and eligibility. For NCC funding, eligible regions have been impacted or can reasonably demonstrate that they will be impacted by one or more nuclear power plant closures. For CARES Act funding, applicants must explain clearly in their application how the proposed project would prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, or respond to economic injury as a result of coronavirus. To me, that sounds like two separate things.
If the town wants to apply for funding to mitigate coronavirus, that's fine, but that's not what this application is about.
Right.
Chris, have you found?
I have not. Um,
Martin, do we have a copy of the letter from August 21st, 2020 in this? From the Miss Cruz Carnal?
I'm sorry, a copy of which letter?
The one dated 21 August 2020 from the Regional Director in Philadelphia?
I emailed that to, I'm not sure if I emailed that to the whole board. I emailed that to, at that time, I emailed it to Chris.
So Jean didn't answer your
But
question.
let me see, I can send that if you need it, or does someone there have it?
I don't either, I don't think the CARES Act is appropriate for us. That letter.
I've got it up on my screen if you would like me to read it to you. Would you like me to do that?
I have it, do you wanna look at it, Michael?
Yeah, if you can pass it down, please.
You have it?
Yes,
do.
thank you.
Okay.
I found the email.
Oh, you did?
I didn't,
Same paragraph.
I didn't send it any, email. I sent you a letter saying that I would provide you with the information
Right.
hard copy. So I don't have it in digital form. But Jean doesn't believe after reviewing this that the CARES Act is gonna apply to both. So
And I know this is really, I just took 4 pictures of it to send it to you. That's really the best that I could do for you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we do approve funding for the EDA grant matching the amount of $90,000 as follows. $74,000 to come from the Professional Services Fund, $12,000 to come from the Planning Commission grant carryover, $4,000 to come from the Selectboard's Reserve Fund, and all of these funds to remain available as needed for the duration of the planning project. None of these funds are derived from federal government sources.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Thank you for all your hard work on this, everybody. Yeah. Be nice if I could fit.
Well, I feel like we were a bit rushed on this, where this was requested of us. They wanted us to essentially just re-sign a letter and submit it. They hastily had a meeting yesterday. We had some people that were not allowed in that meeting. And I just feel like this is rushed. The Planning Commission has not had a meeting, with the exception of last night, in 3 months to discuss anything. We have not been given
Excuse me.
updates. We haven't been, there hasn't been a whole lot brought before this board, and we're being asked to provide $90,000.
Well, we approved more than that before.
And I wasn't super happy about that. And here we are, where it's just, let's move this through. And the Planning Commission has not met. There hasn't been discussions. There hasn't been.
Excuse me, but the planning commission has met about this several times. We've had this particular grant on our agenda for months and months, just watching, waiting for the opportunity. As soon as the opportunity was posted by the EDA, we got busy working on it. We discussed it we did not have a meeting in August, but we had a meeting in June, we had a meeting in July. You just said we haven't met for 3 months. We
When
have.
was your
We've
meeting
had
in
meetings
July?
June and July. And yes, we met last night, simply to ratify this new application, which the previous application, I don't believe was rushed. It was presented to all of you. We spent probably 45 minutes at that meeting in July, select board meeting, discussing it, going back and forth as to which pockets this, at that time, $100,000 would come from. We was pointed out that most of this money is coming from this professional services fund, which was amended by the town at the town meeting specifically for redevelopment purposes for Vermont Yankee. Here is an opportunity, to get a start on this planning process that doesn't really cost the town, any money that it doesn't have already designated for these kinds of things. And all we could be sitting here celebrating the receipt of the grant, but we were asked to tweak it some and to turn it into $90,000 rather than $100,000. So we're actually saving the town some money versus the previous plan. So I'm sorry, but I think we've been through this in considerable detail.
I mean, I agree. We approved $100,000 before. They're coming back asking for less money for the same thing.
And
So
I get
don't
that,
see
but
how
I
that's
just,
rushed.
I don't see where, if we have a planning commission and we are 5 years into the decommissioning, we have roughly 5 years left, we should be meeting monthly. We should be, but the information isn't coming. We're looking for more stuff, and I'm just, it is what it is. There's a motion and we'll vote on it, but I feel like we are putting money on something that there needs to be a plan. There's no plans being
Exactly.
developed but there is no plans being developed if we are not meeting, is my problem. And then when we meet, we have community members that are not allowed into the meeting when they were there for a specific reason.
I
But
don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the residents that were not allowed into the planning commission meeting last evening. That's what I'm talking about.
Who was not allowed into the planning commission meeting last night? It was a Zoom meeting. The link was published.
I attempted to get in several times. This is Catherine Baldwin. I also posted to you directly saying that I was coming to the meeting. And we received a message that said we'd be let in shortly. And then about 10 minutes later, we received a message that said the meeting has ended and the link turned off.
Well, I'm very sorry about that. I was not managing that meeting, but, I don't know what happened there.
You were made aware of that because I texted you while you were in the meeting and I emailed Bob Spencer to make him aware of the situation. And the only response that I got, I never got a response back from you when I texted you. But the response that I got from the chair of that committee was that the meeting had ended by 7 o'clock. And I didn't get an explanation for why citizens were not allowed into the Zoom meeting, but that there had been one citizen allowed in. I didn't get an apology or explanation. I didn't get hey, what citizens weren't allowed in? Let me get in contact with them and see what their concerns were. And I'm really struggling to understand why this would have happened. And in a commission that is asking for a great deal of money when there were concerns from citizens and taxpayers that this is her money just as much as it is your money or my money or the select board's money. These are taxpayers asking about how the money's being spent, and they didn't get an opportunity to voice their concerns.
Well, I apologize on behalf of the Planning Commission and Bob. This is certainly, there was no intent to keep anybody out. It seems like this is a technology problem, relating to Zoom. If we could all sit in the same room together, that, we wouldn't be locking the doors. We'd be letting everybody in. We'd be answering everybody's questions. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Right now, I've been trying to respond to
I would have thought,
to the
since I
question.
reached out to you directly, that you would have responded to me and apologized or asked why I didn't come to the meeting. I said something to you directly prior to the meeting, and we received the message that the meeting was ended at 6:46. So that means you guys took a total of 16 minutes to decide on $90,000 of my money?
It was
That's how
decided
it-
on previously. It was
Okay.
on.
Jane was there.
Amount.
It seems like if they asked you to revamp this, it would have been worth more than 16 minutes. And from what I can tell, the last time you guys met formally was June 10th. So that does seem like not giving a lot of serious consideration to what to do with the town's money. And certainly not allowing the town to have some input into that. Because I think I did everything I could do to try to be part of that meeting. And
Well,
even-
I'm looking at my text messages. If you're talking about a text message or a Facebook message, I'm not always looking at Facebook to see if people are sending me messages.
well, I don't happen to have your personal number, so I reached out to you the only way I knew how.
Yeah, but again, I'm sorry, I apologize. It was not me who was managing this meeting on Zoom. And I don't even know the ins and outs of, how to let people in. But again, it was not the intention, so we can keep talking about that, or we can talk about this grant, which in my opinion is, and you all voted for it 5-0 the last time. If the town wants to see the Vermont Yankee site be redeveloped someday, it needs to go through this type of a planning process. It is simply not going to happen without beginning a formal planning process of this kind. And we've spent a lot of time working up this application, the scope of work, an outline of all the work to be done, an estimate of how much that would cost. We stand to receive $90,000 from the EDA. We are matching that with town money that already has been specifically set aside for this kind of a purpose by a vote of the town meeting. So citizens certainly have had input into this already. As I said, the pot is limited. So if we don't move on this, then other nuclear communities elsewhere will receive that funding.
All right, motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. All set.
Thank you. I would appreciate if that letter could be signed and emailed to me tomorrow so
No, I
that I
didn't.
can submit this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of regular meeting minutes from August 18th.
I just, wondered about the rec department being referred to as Vernon Parks and Recreation, cause we don't usually refer to it that way,
That's what they are.
so
That is the official name.
that is the official name. I never see it used, so I just wondered.
I know it just drilled into my head already.
Okay, all right. That was the only question I had.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and second, and all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills and warrants?
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve payment of the following warrant. 5T, accounts payable, $53,097.17. 33S payroll, $9,231.82. And 34S payroll, $9,960.35.
Second.
Moved and second, and all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? New business, budget parameters for department heads. Thoughts from the board, Jean?
That,
Any thoughts from you as to where
I
we?
can't really speak to that.
I'm sorry, you are correct. I'm sorry. My goodness.
I have to get my letter opener.
Sandy,
No, I don't have strong feelings.
Jeff?
Well, are you looking for a motion or an opinion?
Let's start with an opinion.
Well, I would move that we level fund once again this year.
Michael, discussion?
I just explain what Jeff's talking about. I get it.
Same as last year. Pretty much.
I don't know.
With the exception of, insurance would increase. I
Well,
think that would be,
Things that
right,
we have no control over.
right. But as far as expenditures, it would be. Would you care to turn that into a motion, Mr. Dunkley?
Sure, I move that we encourage department heads to level fund their budgets once again this year, with the exception of costs that we have no control over as a municipality.
How about salaries?
Their question, salary.
We don't have any control over those if it's, a step increase.
Are you,
What about COLA?
I have no problem with that.
Okay, then I'll second the motion.
moved and
You
seconded?
might want to say somewhere in there, no problem if we do look at a COLA
How much?
or a friendly amendment.
You wanna do that now?
Sure. May I?
Do you mind if Maggie chimes in on this portion of discussion before we hold a vote? It does directly relate to COLAs, I believe.
I'm aware.
Absolutely not. Don't mind.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Humans are any organization's greatest asset. The town of Vernon seems to have forgotten that somewhere along the way at times. If you do not care for your people, your infrastructure, and your equipment, you will pay dearly in the long run. Anyone working for the town of Vernon in any department is a skilled laborer. Lifeguards requiring training and certifications. We have lifeguards who have worked for the town for 6 years without even a quarter raise, out of loyalty to Seth and Ian. Loyalty to an employer is worth reward, and the money saved is not training new staff and greater savings. Preschool and daycare staff require special skills and basic first aid and CPR training. Department assistants are trusted with the town's financial records and legal property information. When our elected officials are gone, they are left to provide services the town needs. Library workers are required to learn extensive computer systems that are part of a statewide network. Our fire chief and fire assistant chief give up hundreds of hours a year not to just go on calls. They're at meetings, trainings, ordering supplies, overseeing maintenance of equipment and buildings and grounds. They are the only department without a regularly paid staff member. For many years, these staff members have been paid the same wages and the very minimum of wages, aside from step raises. I'm asking that everyone that works for the town of Vernon be given a cost of living raise. My argument for this is that regardless of what your wages are, a loaf of bread costs the same for any person that walks into a grocery store. It is my understanding that no one in the town of Vernon has been given a cost of living raise since 2016. At that time, when they received a cost of living raise, increase in the cost of what an employee paid in for insurance also increased at the same rate of pay. This means that no one really received a cost of living increase. Now, I understand that to do this and increase our taxes, since every single person that works for the town of Vernon would also be losing that increase in pay if they just had to pay more in taxes. I'm not asking the select board to increase taxes. I believe that we can be creative with our budgets and cut costs in our budgets in ways that we can provide a very healthy cost of living increase and take care of our infrastructures without hurting our staff members. Because it has been so long since the staff have received a cost of living allowance, and for many, they've never received a cost of living allowance. I'm asking for a 3.8% cost of living allowance this year. And in future years, I'm asking that the cost of living allowance match that of the Social Security in the United States, which is much less than that on a yearly basis. If we follow the United States, it'll be much less. If we were to go off of what it should be after 6 years, 3.8% is really not asking that much. But it will make a huge difference to our staff members and their families. Thank you.
Discussion?
So, question about the minimum wage. In Vermont, the minimum wage has gone up over the years. So it's a little disingenuous to say that the minimum wage workers at the rec department have not received a pay raise. They have indeed.
Yes, that is true. However, you're asking people to make minimum wage at skilled positions, and those same individuals could go work for a position where they hold no responsibility. And I guess my question would be, if you have a lifeguard that is responsible for potentially saving the life of a 6-year-old that is about to drown, do you want somebody that is being paid the same that is working at a fast food restaurant, or do you want somebody that has been well trained and well provided for and paid well, or do you want to pay that person what you would have paid at a fast food restaurant? So I understand minimum wage may be better than other places, other states. And I understand minimum wage increases, and the point of minimum wage is you're paying them the very bare minimum. When my grandson comes to visit next summer and he's swimming at the Vernon swimming pool, I want to know the person that is there watching over him is not just getting paid the bare minimum. They're well trained and they're appreciated. And when I walk into a department, I want to be able to look my fellow staff members in the eyes and know that they're appreciated.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Alright, so that does not affect that motion, correct? Okay. So all those in favor of Jeff's motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Alright,
I recuse myself. You have to note that, please. Please.
next we added, let me find it here, please. I received.
Town foresters, Steve Hardy.
Yes, yep, so I was gonna try and find the email from him. Actually, it was, so we received this, Steve Hardy and Robo Holleran. Anybody? No? Okay. Foresters would like to request permission to host a forestry workshop at the Vernon Town Forest on September 25th, 2020. They expect approximately 60 foresters from around the Northeast to attend and will be hosting a meal. They have held two previous workshops there, one in 2012 and one in 2016. They did attach the agenda from 2016. So that was the request that we received today with Steve Hardy's contact information. So
When's that?
September 25th.
Has that gone through the Septia? Is he in charge of the town board?
I do not have an answer for that. I guess I'm more concerned about bringing 60 foresters
Yeah.
from around the
That's my
Northeast.
next thing. We'll bring people from all over during COVID.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was my issue when I read that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
Um,
question about that.
So I would make a motion that we respond that due to COVID restrictions, we are uncomfortable and we would love to re-entertain this in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they planned on doing for eating, but that's
Yeah.
a huge crowd, and I'm not sure what our outdoor gatherings are really supposed to be at this point. And
And I think that, you know, to Michael's point of involving Mr. Dio is that he
Yeah.
has done a tremendous job at keeping our town recreation area extremely
Right.
safe during all of this. And
yeah,
we would be backpedaling or potentially backpedaling
Yeah.
at that point.
I'm not comfortable with this.
I'll second your motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Has anybody had a chance to look at the town common area, the gazebo and the memorial?
Yes.
I did,
All right.
I just can't find my paper, I probably left it on my desk.
Well, I'll start at this then. Michael?
I have, and I say remove
Oh, I know.
all the stuff that looks horrible, all the bushes and trees that it's gonna cost us more money to maintain, turn it to grass. It'll look better, I think, and be easier, cheaper for the town to maintain. And all that stuff surrounding that gazebo is just gonna end up rotting that wood sooner than later, if it's not already.
It's what?
Let's start rotting the wood. It's
Oh.
not there.
His
Well, there's a
suggestion
lot
is
of
that we,
weeds.
his suggestion is that
There's a lot of
everything
weeds.
comes out of there and it just goes back to lawn and is mowed. And then there's no maintenance aspect to it. Cause I can't imagine that would change our bid to go around those two things with nothing in the way. As far as the lawn care.
Right.
Jeff, your thoughts?
I fully support Michael's idea.
You know, like,
Sandy?
Oh, that's what Jim had.
you like the word cheaper in there.
What did I have?
Yes.
I felt that if the areas were maintained and the weeds were actually pulled out, that it could be an attractive area.
I agree.
I just know in the past, I mean, there's been weddings over there, there's been different uses, and it is kind of our town center at this point. Heather does a fantastic job. You know, she maintains at the signs, the Vernon signs, I mean, keeping the flowers in shape, and seems to be just enough color always there. some of the big stuff I think has gotta go. That's a bit unsightly. Yeah, and even inside the memorial, there's just so many weeds. It's just showing the effects of no maintenance, no
Mhm.
care. I think that it could look nice if you had somebody that was really gonna be responsible for it.
It comes at a cost.
Well, how much does Heather charge for doing these?
I was trying to find, because she actually sent a message saying that, in,
Gave it to us last
So-
meeting.
what's
It's-
that? Oh, that's right, it was in that, yes, I'm sorry, thank you.
So, well, her numbers add up to 760, she wrote 750 at the bottom. But this is, I don't know if that's what it would be every year to maintain it, because right now, there's a huge amount of work, and she's talking about getting rid of a lot of debris, intensive trimming.
Some of that debris was going to require us having the town to come up and remove the bigger shrubs with a piece of equipment
Yeah.
and dispose of those.
Yeah,
Um,
which she indicated that was,
cause even if we spend money on it, then you can't get into the gazebo. There's nowhere, you can't trim those back anymore or they'll
No, I
die.
know, we
The
have-
shrubs in the front are dead. The ones that are around the memorial, you can't even sit on the two granite benches that are over there because the trees are eating them.
and that's a sign of it, those bushes not being maintained to a
absolutely.
smaller size, which would have been more attractive. I don't know, I feel like I would like to see some planting still around the gazebo, and Heather is always very reasonable. And like I said, she's listed prices here that are talking about rehabbing these gardens, which to me, that's an intensive project right now. And if she were to, I guess I'd like to know in the future, what her maintenance fee would be. I just feel like this quote she gave us there's a lot of work in that. And I don't know if it'd be the same every year, but
What is it for the garden at isn't it $1,500 that she gets for the historical society?
Yes.
So I mean, it would stand to reason that it's gonna be,
yeah, that's around that whole building.
yeah, so I mean, this, if it's $750, I would imagine that's $750 a year.
Every year. Well,
And that's,
I think Mary Lynn, are you trying to say something?
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm okay. I thought it was like 1,500 she got down at the Historical Society.
We used to pay someone else to take care of them a long time ago. And it looked good.
I'm sure it did, I'm just questioning the use over there and if it's worth $750 for an area that unfortunately isn't used. We have that war memorial over there that is in desperate need of a cleaning
yes.
and,
We could use the money to maintain that over
Um,
bushes and flowers.
I may be able to resolve that cleaning for free next year.
we like free.
Yeah.
And
All right.
so does that have to be an annual thing, do you know, like cleaning all that granite stones?
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be every year. I don't, it's like everything, it just hasn't been done in ages.
Yeah.
Well, I would take a motion from either end of this table.
Oh, okay, so she does say at the bottom, estimated yearly upkeep of Veterans Memorial and gazebo gardens, $750 with material. So there's the answer to that question.
I make a motion to have Heather clean it up, get rid of the big stuff, and rehab the gardens.
Well,
I'm against the motion because I've already said we need to let the whole town have an option to do
That's
stuff,
true. We
not
put
just
it
one
out to
person
bid.
every time.
No problem putting that to bid.
Okay.
I just feel like we're just offering it to one person, and it should be offered to the whole town to give a chance to, we can't lock
Okay.
the whole town out again.
I'll put it.
All right,
I withdraw that motion, make a motion, that we put it out to bid.
second.
any discussion?
What are we putting out to bid?
Removing the big shrubs, that would be the town, right?
I mean, we would have to certainly ask Mr. Walker if he would be so kind as to donate his equipment to do that.
And rehabbing the gardens around the gazebo and memorial.
Yeah.
Could we agree on removing the shrubs around the memorial and returning that to grass and just
Yeah.
leaving
Yeah.
that centerpiece as a garden and eliminate that?
Oh, the shrubs around
Yeah.
And that way,
Yeah.
people could sit on the bench, but you still have the garden in the middle. I don't,
Sure.
That would be better.
Yeah.
It would be better for the granite too, if there wasn't stuff all on it.
So, make a motion to ask the town garage to remove the shrubs and bushes and put a bid out to whatever word you wanna use, the flowers that are currently there.
Second,
Bam.
moved and seconded to ask the town to remove the shrubs around the war memorial and around the gazebo. And then we will put it out to bid to have the flower beds redone with a yearly maintenance. Is that acceptable?
Mhm.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Opposed? Perfect. Results from engineer on town building. So we have 255 pages of wonderful reading material. I so kindly was given Maggie's hard copy here because I'm special.
you like the smell of highlighters.
I do. I did send that over to Linda, and I believe that they are meeting tomorrow. So they will have a discussion on that, take a look at it, and at some point, I would imagine we would all like to sit together and see.
Can I explain who they are to
Um,
viewers?
yes, so Linda from the Planning Commission, the
Capital plan.
capital plan, thank you. And then that will give us, if we could all take some time over the next couple of weeks and look at this, make some notes, and then we can set something up with Tom and Linda. Is everybody in favor of that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yes.
Discussion of traffic study. Maggie, would you speak to that? Have you had time to go over that, or?
We still haven't gotten that.
Oh, okay.
The traffic study, the VTrans Grant, I'm kind of waiting for input from all of you versus the traffic study. Having not lived here long enough to know, other than coming down Huckle Hill and closing my eyes as I watch a bicyclist or pedestrian scared to death that they're gonna die on that road. I guess we're capable of getting about $20,000 from this VTrans grant, which is not enough to put in a bicycle lane on any road. I do understand that after speaking to several people, we may actually be able to get the state, and the state is currently being asked if they would look at putting a bicycle lane on Highway 142. And so that is something that we don't need to worry about using our grant for. Thanks to Tim, our town clerk, he is pushing that issue right now for us. So yay, Tim. So the $20,000, we could use that for crosswalks. We could use that for, funding wise, that's probably the best way that we could use that VTrans money. It's supposed to be used for pedestrian purposes. So a crosswalk maybe somewhere that the children, when they get out of school, if we have kids that are riding their bikes or walking, to get across certain roads, if we need to do something near the rec center.
We buy
No.
signs with that, signs.
We could, yes, and we can do signs, we can do crosswalks. When I had spoke to Sheriff Anderson, he was willing to donate to the town, digital signs for the, how fast people are going. So we don't need to buy those necessarily, cause we're gonna be able to get those from the sheriff department.
Those ones we
Because-
can use, not have though. That
Well-
they'll move at their own will.
He has them coming in from a grant, I believe. yes.
Those aren't the mobile ones, those would be the mounted on the signs. I mean, yes, we probably
He
don't
said
own
that
them, but they're
when
not.
he talked to us about it,
Right.
he said that he could bring them here, but he'd move them all around Lincoln County.
So he was getting additional ones to those, I believe, because of this grant. So
How
he
many-
said not to go buying.
But we have, what, 2 crosswalks in town, one at the rec and one here by the school, correct? I mean, my thought with the crosswalks, and I think I mentioned it here when Seth was here last time, if you go up by like the retreat in Brattleboro, they push the button that they're gonna walk and the sign starts to flash and draws attention to that. And I think those kind of signs by the school or by the recreation area would be, so not the speed signs, but that might be, cause I mean, where would we even consider putting in another crosswalk?
We need to upgrade the ones we have, not add.
So another place that may be something to consider is when you're turning onto Pond Road. I've seen a lot of bicyclists there, and I know 142 is state, but Pond Road is not, and there's not a great deal of visibility coming around the corner of Pond Road. If there was some way that we could use some of the money there for Pond Road to do some sort of flashing light or a warning sign about pedestrians being there, because again, it just seems like when people are coming around that curve on 142, they're not paying attention to how fast they're going. And I'm always afraid a bicyclist is going to get hit right in that little area by the post office. But it has a lot to do with people turning off of Pond Road and then coming up 142. Because they're coming across, like, they're coming from Pond Road over to the other side of the road. So maybe a crosswalk of some sort there, that if somebody is walking or bicycling, they would have a way to come on a crosswalk across.
Crosswalks are only for walking. They're not for bicycles legally.
So that must be a Vermont thing.
So you're
They'd have to get off the bike and walk it. That's the biggest spot that's been accidents in the town. I hope the sheriff's department is including that in their study. Because that's been, for the last year, pretty much all of our accidents have been in that spot.
Okay, so that's a Vermont thing. In Missouri, we're allowed to take our bicycles across crosswalks, so that's why it's.
If you get off it and walk it, yes.
Okay.
So, can I interrupt? So two things. When we were doing the lunches for no school starting in March, I walked from the shop, just about every day. I walked up to the rec center, and the crosswalk that's there, almost at the end of Huckle Hill, is, you really can't see it. The stripe of really just about gone. But people that travel there should know there's a crosswalk there. And when you're standing to cross the street, people can see you. And I know sometimes kids don't always wait for traffic to stop. Numerous times I had cars just keep going as I stood there and waited. A couple of times they waved at me. So
That was
I
nice
thought that
of
was-
them. Did you wave back?
I thought that was nice that they were friendly and waved at me as I was waiting to cross the road. And that's okay. So maybe something there for the kid, that would be a good idea. But numerous years ago, I don't know how many now, but numerous, Pond Road used to have on one side was very wide for people to walk and ride bikes.
From Newton Road.
I'm not sure of the rationale or the reasoning, but it got moved over again to two narrow pathways on either side.
I believe
So,
it has to be a
I don't
sidewalk
remember,
or
I
something.
don't recollect why that got changed back like that, but at one time it was very wide and it was just on one side. I don't know if that is a solution again for people walking or riding bikes
I would
to
say
help.
to ask David Walker, because I remember him explaining that at one point, and I
Yeah.
think it had to do with
You had to
the
have a
legal
sidewalk
width
there.
of Pond Road, and that was not really, even though it was there, it wasn't considered a walkway. It was really almost like a breakdown lane, but I think we needed the right
But the
size
road was still the same. It was just that, you know,
I
Well,
believe
that's-
he said that you need to install a sidewalk, so we have to legally install a sidewalk for that whole thing to legally have that on the road.
Yeah, with a curb,
Yeah.
right?
The sidewalk creates the curb.
And that
You have
But
to have
bikes
two
aren't allowed
different
on
You have to have a
levels
very
of the
wide
road
road.
to make it separate.
you start
Yeah.
talking about needing to
But-
cut into people's yards.
But Brattleboro has bike lanes all over their town,
Built
and those are
in
just
I know,
painted stripes.
and in the road too.
Exactly,
They're
yeah.
not in what?
I wouldn't.
Where you're thinking of.
I mean, they've got some that come right down Main Street.
Yeah.
They've got a bike
Mhm.
lane, it's it's got a bicycle painted on there, but it's a narrow, there's no curbs, it's just painted on.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know, I guess we'll have to find out about that.
Yeah.
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 I don't know whether it changed back one time when they were tarring or I know that's when it changed, but I don't remember the reasoning.
So that would be something to think about if the state is gonna end up doing the bike lane on 142 to be able to continue that down, or even to be able to paint that on Pond Road would be very helpful to people coming that way. And we definitely, I was very surprised when I moved here how many bicyclists we have. One, I just think they're pretty brave to take on those hills, but two, to take on those narrow roads. So it would be something to consider doing with some of the funds.
All right, any further discussion on that? Anything that you needed to move forward on that, or,
Just waiting on the traffic study.
okay. Can we reach out to him again tomorrow? And you still have, oh, actually, I'm sorry, public participation on non-agenda items. You got anything?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I will have them highlighted in my delinquent tax report, so you know who they are. I think I have 7 delinquent taxpayers that I have forwarded to the attorney for possible tax sale. That he's gonna say, hey, make an agreement, pay, or we're gonna press forward. So I think there's 7 of them, but I will highlight them. I should have my report in probably Thursday, sent to you. So I will highlight those.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Any other public participation?
I have a couple things.
Go right ahead.
I was wondering when the offices, like what we're looking for to make the offices open to the public again, so we can come in and like what things.
Fantastic question.
What is the standard we're looking to see? Cause I know they've got masks, they've got shields have been purchased, I think, and other, all of those safety things that we see everywhere else, I think have been taken care of in the town offices. And so I'm just wondering, what is our threshold for when we can start saying, okay, we can start doing some public business. The box outside isn't great, cause I like getting a receipt when I drop off a large chunk of money, even if it is by check. I like to know, you know, that I handed it to someone, I have documentation.
Certified
phone
mail
call
return
is a-
receipt.
Phone call isn't always to say, you know, and so being able to do some of that face to face and being sure that I know I handed this to this person and they stamped it and did what, you know. And we are a small town, so what are we looking for to make that happen?
Technically, when it comes to the town clerk and the town treasurer, they make that decision themselves. As far as the building, we can say the building's open, but they can say our office is not open.
Okay. Okay. So my next thing I wanted to ask about is there any plans at any time to have some official online presence for the town? I know we have an unofficial website, we have the Facebook, it's all unofficial, but I feel like there's times when it seems like the people running those sites sometimes take liberties to edit or alter some of the stuff, or maybe not put things that maybe people would wanna know, so it seems like it's very, you know, there's
We did
not
this.
everything the public needs to know is in those places.
Sure.
Because whoever's doing them is, you know, filtering or whatever, and so I'm wondering, is there gonna be a way for us to get
So
an
we,
official town something?
we did take that up at our last select board meeting, very specific to a official town website.
Okay.
Because as the listers become digital and the clerk becomes digital, that's all gonna be on there. So Maggie has been tasked with gathering information on that and prices that will be presented back here. I doubt it would happen this month with everything else, budget and stuff. I mean, realistically, we're probably into October,
But there's a plan.
but there is.
Okay.
I have some numbers I could throw at you.
Okay, so yes, it will be
Okay.
coming, so just keep an eye out for the agendas, and it will be on there.
And then just one more quick question.
Sure.
Do the town committee meetings and stuff follow Robert's Rules of Order, or what is the structure for those? What are the sort of guidelines?
Open meeting law. I think usually boards and committees decide if they're gonna follow parliamentary procedure or Robert's rules.
So we don't have a specific guideline the committees have to follow here. We haven't adopted, like in Vernon, our committees are gonna follow these guidelines. Each committee gets to decide on their own what their guidelines are gonna be.
Well,
So,
perhaps, but not, they can't not follow open meeting laws.
right, so this again came up at our last meeting as well. And there was a discussion about it, and so we're coming into budget season now. And then I believe that it was after that, we were going to start to look at those committees. And so what we found out was that some of these committees do not have clear expectations of what they're, and that's just an issue from years. So what we will be doing is tasking the committees with outlining what they feel their committee is responsible for, and then we would review that here and make whatever changes. So again, that is in the works, so that we can take a look at that and make sure that everybody is on the same page and knows what is expected of them.
So that'll include how meetings are run, how long that announcements have to be made about meetings.
So all of that stuff, as far as posting your meeting minutes within the 48 hour, or I'm sorry, the agendas and the warnings and all of that stuff, all of that is followed.
And
That's
what,
it.
is that just do we use Vermont guidelines or Robert's Rules of
That's
Order?
Vermont,
It's Vermont.
open meeting law
Okay.
is what they need to follow.
And if you do some research on that, just be cautious because there was differences for COVID.
Right,
To
I
allow us to
understand
do the Zoom meetings and all of that stuff.
Yes,
So
I
there
did
is some
look- I looked up
differences
some
there.
of that, but I wasn't sure if every committee had to follow the same or if it was.
So yes, it's my understanding that everybody has to follow Vermont open meeting laws. And then everything else would be, anything that doesn't fall under that category would be up to them.
Robert's rules would modify.
Okay,
Okay, that's all I have.
all right. So yeah, I mean, awesome. Thank you for bringing those up. Those are all things that we are looking at. Hopefully we start to see some more participation from public joining us at meetings, whether it's in person or whether it's on Zoom, so that everybody can express or give us their feedback and just kind of keep us in the loop as to what they're seeing, or it's your town. We want to hear from you, I guess is what I'm saying, for sure. So I appreciate the questions. Anything else?
That was my list.
Okay. Maggie, you're up on correspondence, please.
So I sent out an email to you about a second request from Senator Sanders' office because he is going to the floor with his bill on Nuclear Decommissioning Act. And all of you were very quiet on that issue, and so I did not send a letter of feedback. It was due today, and I did not just use my imagination. I just went ahead and remained silent on that one. We had sent him a very nice letter previously, and so I just let that information be what we wanted him to go with. The second correspondence question I have for you is, you had previously voted to allow our lawn care provider to finish out his contract for the season based on the experiences of earlier this summer, when I had creatively said that the town hall started to look like grandfather's mansion. And then they were able to sort of turn things around. They changed the person that was coming down here to provide service, and things have been taken care of in a much different manner for the last 6 weeks, I would say. They've been here regularly. The lawns have been mowed and trimmed. The only thing that is not being done right now, which is not part of the contract because we're not paying extra for it, is the weeds in the rocks around the building themselves are not being killed. And that was a conversation that he and I had when we discussed it 6 weeks ago. And that would require actual weed killer, whether that's natural or non-natural. And that would be an additional charge. And we did discuss that in the meeting back in July. So my question is to you, if you wish to still put this out for bid over the winter and you want me to still write a letter to cancel the contract, or if you would prefer to keep this company for next year.
Or if we would like to hold off sending that letter until later on.
Yes, I can have a conversation. There are some circumstances that might be of value to us by the next meeting that could help you decide if we should still send a letter.
Didn't they say that it's underbidded anyways, so we need to get it reback out to bid correctly?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Well,
I thought
so
they were gonna-
we have another year on this contract, so if you put it out to bid, whatever bid you get, going forward, whether it's them or anyone else, guaranteed is going to be higher. So that's something to take into consideration. What we're getting right now is a good price. And the gentleman that's doing the work right now, he's doing a good job. It isn't the person who was doing it before. It's just a matter of, there's no guarantee that he's gonna be the person that's out here next season doing it. So that's the question at hand, price versus quality, and you take that gamble if you remain in this contract.
How long do we have till we have to provide them a letter?
60 days, they have to have 60 days notice, so reasonably 60 days, before this first spring cleaning would be what we would expect to happen. However, if we need to budget more because you choose to go with a different bid, then we would need to have that in the budget, which means that we would need to make a decision before we turn in our budget. So either we need to do it by January, or we need to do it by mid-December. Either way, we have to definitely decide before spring.
I would say instead of having two different people work on this property, just have one. So I'd send it back out to bid to have the gazebo, the Veterans Memorial, and this all done in one. Instead of having two different contractors to watch. Because at some point, we're gonna need a contract manager to manage all these contracts. And that's definitely not what Maggie is.
Are you talking about two separate contracts,
I'm
one for
saying-
the gardening and one for the mowing? Is that what you're talking
I'm
about?
saying it'd make sense to get one ground maintenance contract for this whole facility, than having two separate ones.
I will tell you that a lot of times the lawn people don't want anything to do with the landscaping portion. That's
Well, that's why we should hire a lawn landscaper, not a lawnmower. Just my opinion.
If you're gonna have more information for us next time, could we table this to the next meeting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a couple of
so you
months.
would like me to not send the letter? Okay, because the original motion was for me to send the letter at this time, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. So I would need a motion to not send the letter.
So moved.
Second.
I
You didn't.
I'm kidding.
Moved and seconded to hold off on sending the letter to the lawn care. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Next, update on meeting with fire chief and assistant fire chief, please.
I met with the fire department, I met with Keith, assistant fire chief, and chief, and we discussed grants for the fire department. There is one grant available to them in 2020, and that would give them some gear to work forestry, wildfires. They have asked that we go ahead and work on that grant, and it's a matching grant, so they would be eligible for up to $5,000 worth of gear, and that would be matched by their matching grant budget that they have available. So realistically, it would probably be $4,000 worth of gear that they'd be asking for. And then we also started looking at 2021 grant. There's a very large grant, federal grant available for rural volunteer fire departments. And we are going to go for the gusto for that one, and it would be granted by next August. And if they were to get that, they would possibly get up to 15 full sets of gear from head to toe, which is a significant amount of money for that department in grants that are in gear that they wouldn't have to pay for. Those sets of gear are only good for 10 years, and so they are only able to budget 2 of those a year. So being able to get 15 at once, and they're adding 4 new members to their department right now that are going through school. And so it's a really big deal for them. We also talked about they have some gear that doesn't fit anyone in their department, and I suggested that they get on a website with other fire departments in the country and see if they can't sell their used gear that is still within usage, to try to recoup some money for their department, and they're looking at doing that. So yes, that was the meeting with the fire department. And then I also had a meeting with their recreation department, and we are working on a matching grant with them to put in the disc golf course. That would allow them to bring in some family-friendly, COVID-friendly entertainment down at the rec department. So we would be able to have social distancing outside entertainment and, something that is not necessarily for those of us that are athletically challenged.
I'm not sure how to take that as somebody who is newly fond of the disc golf game.
I want you to take that however you would like. But I think it's a really great thing. It's a really popular sport, and a lot of people, anybody any age can play it. And I think that Seth and Ian have some really great ideas about broadening the horizons of the rec department and doing some things outside the box. And this is one step going forward that they want to do, and it's something that they can do. We found ways to not actually have to spend money for them to do their match, with some creativity in this grant. So I'm really excited about helping them with that. And then the budget, I think, if you look at the budget calendar, we were going to not have a select board meeting the last week of September, but I scheduled a budget meeting for September 30th. And the reason that I did that is I didn't think anybody would want to have a budget meeting on the week of Thanksgiving in November. And if we wanted to finish on time by mid-December, we needed to pick up an extra week. And so if everybody is in agreement, we could do that September 30th Wednesday meeting.
September 30th is on a Tuesday.
Is it?
It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
What year are you?
October 30th is a Wednesday.
Weird.
It's a Wednesday.
It says it's Tuesday, it really does.
You got the right
I
year?
just closed it and opened it back up.
Have you got
and
the
now-
right year?
He was on the wrong year.
It was 2020. I looked 3 times before I leaned in to see Indeed. All right, that's a Wednesday. Fine. We're all on the same page.
So I just wanted to make sure that everybody realized that we weren't having a select board meeting on the 29th, but you would have the budget meeting on the 30th. And I purposely did that because I figured I wouldn't get anyone to show up on the Wednesday night of Thanksgiving week.
No. We always showed up when those were scheduled like that. Have more faith. Even right before Christmas.
I might have had to bribe you with pie. How's that?
I like you're thinking better than hers.
But we did show up,
We
I'm
did.
saying.
I would like to point out on September 16th for the first budget meeting, the Planning Commission is on that. So please take time to go over the assessment that we had.
And December 16th is my birthday. I'm probably not going to do a final budget review on my birthday.
Oh, come on.
Not that I'm going to do anything else
So-
exciting, but
Wait a second, say again what you just said, Chris. What do you want us to attend to for what?
I don't want you to attend to anything because I just realized I said it wrong anyway. So let's just go back to what I was saying before.
All
That you
right,
have
I'm
plenty
not
of time to
confused
look at
then.
that. You're
All right,
fine.
September 30th, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
we're
that's a
Capital
Tuesday.
Planning Committee. Okay.
That's what I
We are
meant.
in trouble.
Yes, we are. I put a star next to that one so I don't forget it now. All right, anything else? Our next meeting will be on the 15th, followed by a budget meeting on the 16th. I would love a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Let's get out of here.